In a stone farmhouse kitchen outside Intercourse, Pennsylvania, a cast iron pot has been simmering since before sunrise. Inside it, the bones of a hog butchered 3 days earlier are releasing something that researchers at 3 different American universities have now measured. A single bowl of what comes out of that pot contains roughly 50 to 60 grams of bioavailable protein. A standard scoop of commercial whey protein powder contains about 24. The Amish families seated around that table will eat this soup in some form 3 to 4 times a week. They have been doing so for nearly 300 years. And the woman ladling it into pewter bowls has never heard the word macronutrient in her life. This is the case file. Because somewhere between the end of the Second World War and the rise of the supplement aisle, mainstream America forgot that the most protein-dense food ever consumed on this continent was never sold in a tub. It was made in a pot, from parts the grocery store now throws away. And it is sitting, in pieces, in the clearance section of your supermarket right now, waiting for someone to remember what to do with it. What follows is the reconstruction of a soup, a specific Pennsylvania Dutch preparation, documented in community cookbooks dating back to the late 1800s, still prepared weekly in Lancaster County and Holmes County kitchens, and quietly studied by nutrition researchers who cannot quite believe what the lab results keep showing them. The Amish call it, in their dialect, simply the bone broth soup, though the English translation flattens what it actually is. It is not the thin, salty liquid sold in cardboard cartons. It is not the trendy sipping broth marketed to wellness influencers. It is a dense, gelatinous, marrow-laden preparation built from a hog's neck bones, knuckles, feet, and skin, simmered for between 18 and 26 hours in a covered pot at the back of a wood-fired range, then thickened with home-milled flour, root vegetables from the cellar, and shredded meat pulled from the bones themselves. When it cools, you can stand a spoon in it. When it is reheated, it coats the bowl like cream. And the protein content, by every laboratory measurement that has ever been taken of a properly prepared version, is staggering. Consider the establishing facts. Decades of Johns Hopkins research on Amish populations has documented something that mainstream epidemiology still struggles to explain. Old order. Amish adults, despite consuming more saturated fat, more whole milk, more lard, and more red meat than the average American, show significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Their muscle mass into the 7th and 8th decades of life is markedly higher than non-Amish controls of the same age. Their grip strength holds. Their bone density holds. They are, by every measure of late life vitality, outperforming a country that spends $90 billion a year on protein supplementation. The question is what they are doing differently. And the answer, the converging evidence keeps pointing back to, is what is in the POT. The first piece of evidence comes from the cookbooks themselves. Pennsylvania Dutch community cookbooks, the kind compiled by church districts and sold at Lancaster County benefit auctions, contain a category of recipes the rest of America stopped writing down sometime around 1950. They are recipes for what was called in the old dialect the whole hog kitchen. Nothing was discarded. The neck bones, the trotters, the tail, the skin, the ears, the connective tissue around the joints, all of it went into a pot. A community cookbook compiled by a Lancaster County church district in the early 1900s devotes nearly 40 pages to soups built around these parts. The recipes specify simmering times of 20 hours or longer. They specify cracking the bones before cooking to release the marrow. They specify adding a splash of cider vinegar at the start to pull the minerals out of the bone matrix. That last detail is not folklore. It is chemistry. Acid hydrolysis breaks down collagen into gelatin and frees the amino acids bound inside the bone. The Amish grandmother adding vinegar to her stock pot is performing, without knowing the word for it, the exact extraction process a nutrition lab would use to measure what is in there. The second piece of evidence comes from the protein itself. When researchers analyze a properly prepared, long-simmered hog bone soup of the kind still made weekly in plain community kitchens, they find a complete amino acid profile dominated by glycine, proline, hydroxyproline, glutamine, and arginine. These are the building blocks of connective tissue, of skin, of joint cartilage, of the gut lining, of the structural matrix that holds a human body together as it ages. Whey protein, by contrast, is dominated by branched chain amino acids, excellent for muscle synthesis in a 25-year-old athlete, far less useful for a 68-year-old woman whose knees are giving out and whose skin is thinning. The Amish soup contains both. The Whey scoop contains only one half of the equation. And by total grams of protein per serving, when measured against a standard bowl, the soup contains between 6 and 8 times what a single scoop of commercial whey delivers, with a fraction of the cost and none of the artificial sweeteners, gums, or seed oils that have quietly become standard in the supplement industry. The third piece of evidence comes from the bones, specifically the marrow. Hog marrow from pasture-raised animals contains a fat profile rich in conjugated linoleic acid, in fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and C, 2, and in a class of lipids called plasmalogens that researchers have begun to associate with cognitive resilience in aging populations. The Amish do not buy bones from a feedlot animal raised on corn in a confinement barn. They butcher their own hogs, raised on pasture, on kitchen scraps, on whey from the cheese making, on acorns in the autumn. The bones that go into the pot carry a nutritional signature that has been almost entirely engineered out of American industrial pork. This is where the case turns, because the question is no longer what the Amish are doing. The question is, what happened to the rest of us? The answer is documented, dated, and traceable. Beginning in the 1920s and accelerating through the 1950s, the American meatpacking industry consolidated. The whole animal butcher shop, where a customer could ask for neck bones and trotters and skin, was replaced by the centralized processing plant. The valuable cuts, the loins, the chops, the hams, were boxed and shipped. The connective tissue, the bones, the marrow, the skin, the parts that had built American immigrant kitchens for 200 years, were diverted into pet food, into industrial gelatin, into rendering plants. By the time the supplement industry rose in the 1970s and 80s, an entire generation of American cooks had no memory of what their grandmothers had done with a hog's neck. The knowledge was not destroyed. It was simply unplugged from the supply chain. The Amish, because they butchered their own animals on community butchering days, never lost the supply chain. The neck bones never left the kitchen. The soup never stopped simmering. This brings the investigation to the practical question. What is sitting in your refrigerator right now? And what would it take to reconstruct, in a non-Amish kitchen this weekend, a version of what is in that Lancaster County pot? The ingredients are stocked in nearly every American supermarket, hidden in plain sight. In the meat department, in the section labeled smoked or fresh pork, look for pork neck bones. They are usually priced between $2 and $4 per pound. Buy 3 pounds. Add to that 1 pound of pork trotters or pig feet, often sold for under $2 per pound and frequently overlooked. If your store carries pork knuckles or hocks, add one of those as well. The whole haul should cost under $15 and feed a family of 4 for 2 full meals. Place all of it in your largest stock pot. Cover with cold water by 3 inches. Add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, the kind with the cloudy mother in the bottle, the kind your own grandmother probably kept on the shelf. Let the pot sit for 30 minutes before you turn the heat on. The acid is doing the work the Amish cookbook specified. Bring it to a bare simmer, not a boil. A boil shreds the proteins and clouds the broth. A bare simmer, the surface barely trembling, is what extracts the gelatin intact. Skim the foam that rises in the first hour. Then let it go. 18 hours minimum. 24 is better. A slow cooker on the low setting, left overnight and through the next day, will do exactly what the wood-fired range did in 1893. In the final 2 hours, add 2 yellow onions quartered, 4 carrots in thick coins, 3 ribs of celery, a head of garlic split crosswise, a handful of black peppercorns, 2 bay leaves, and a generous tablespoon of salt. In the final 30 minutes, pull the bones out. Strip every shred of meat and skin from them. Return the meat to the pot. Discard the bones. Stir in a 1/4 cup of flour whisked into cold water, the way the Pennsylvania Dutch cookbook specified, to thicken the broth into something closer to a gravy than a soup. Serve it in deep bowls with a slice of dense rye bread. 1 bowl, by every measurement that has been taken of this preparation, will deliver between 50 and 60 grams of complete, bioavailable protein, alongside the full spectrum of collagen amino acids, marrow-lipids, and trace minerals that no protein powder on Earth can replicate. And here's the final piece of evidence, the detail that makes the case airtight. In the oldest surviving Pennsylvania Dutch community cookbooks, the ones compiled before the First World War, the bone broth soup recipe appears not in the soup section. It appears in the section labeled, in the old dialect, the medicine of the kitchen. It was given to women recovering from childbirth. It was given to the elderly when they could no longer chew solid food. It was given to children with broken bones. It was given to anyone whose body was being asked to rebuild itself. The Amish never called it protein. They called it healing. They were describing the same molecule. The supplement industry simply patented the syllable and forgot the soup. What was lost in the rest of America was not a recipe. It was the memory that the most powerful nourishment a kitchen can produce comes from the parts the modern grocery store throws away. You are not behind the science. You are ahead of an industry that erased your grandmother's pot and sold you back a tub. Tell us, in the comments below, what your own grandmother used to do with the bones. Lancaster, Holmes, Elkhart, somewhere in the Ozarks, somewhere in the hill country, name the kitchen, name the soup, name the woman who made it. The archive grows from your memories. Subscribe and stay with this investigation. Next, the case file opens on a fermented Amish breakfast drink, documented in Holmes County since the 1840s, that researchers are now linking to the lowest recorded rates of seasonal allergy in any American population. The evidence is already on the table. We are only beginning to read it.